I'm Steve Deace. Welcome to Rant, and the season is back on. I know what you're thinking. Steve, last week you told us the season was over. I know. But I'm being entirely consistent here because this isn't a season. This is more than that. It's an exorcism. And what we're looking for are signs of whether or not whatever has infestated this franchise for the better part since Bobby Lane left a year before my mom was born, whether that's truly been cast out or not. And last week's loss to Seattle looked very same old Lions. It looked exactly like last year's loss to Seattle, in fact. But this win against Atlanta, this was something different. I mean, at this point, with the amount of injured and key injuries that the Lions have, you'll take any win over a 2-0 team at all. If it was 6-3 and it was a last-second field goal, you'll take it just to get to 2-1. It's the NFL, man. This isn't college football. You're not looking at point spreads. You're not dealing with style points. It's the NFL, which stands for not for long. So when you got a chance to win, win now by any means necessary. It's the way that the Lions won this game. When was the last time we can say Green Bay last year, maybe? The home game when Kirby Joseph kept picking off Aaron Rodgers, is that the last time the Lions won a game on defense? Because this has been all about Ben Johnson and his offense here for the last year and a half. The Lions won this game on defense. They took one of the top rushing teams in the NFL, and the Lions couldn't stop the run to save their lives a year ago, held them to 44 yards. They had 7 sacks from 6 different players. They came into the game with just 2 sacks all year. Tracy Walker stepped in, his first meaningful action of the season, and played superbly. Brian Branch is looking like defensive rookie of the year kind of stuff with the numbers he's putting together. Aiden Hutchinson is the first player in NFL history in his first 20 career games to have at least 10 sacks and 3 interceptions. Sam Laporta on the offensive side, leading all NFL tight ends in receptions. He's the first tight end in modern times to have at least 3 receptions in each of his first 3 games. But that defense, back to the defense again, that defense that cost Detroit the game a week ago, that cost the Lions dearly all too often last season, the defense came in, stepped up, and carried the team to victory. And these are the kinds of things that good teams do. You're resourceful. You have more outs. You have more ways to win, more ways you can beat another team. And this is a game and a spot where the Lions have just lost this thing so many times. Too many injuries, can't overcome them unless there's some superhuman effort by one singular player in Ndamukong Suh, Barry Sanders, Matthew Stafford, Billy Sims, if we're going to go way back. This time, this was just a very systematic dismantling, a very methodical dismantling of a decent NFL opponent who may end up winning their division this year. We shall see. And they managed to be resourceful. They managed to get just enough out of the running game despite the myriad of injuries on the offensive line. They managed to get a big play in the passing game down the field, albeit with a tight end. They just managed to get it done. And how often have we said that about this franchise? Hey, they did what they had to do to get a solid win. No gimmicks. Just got the job done. There's one other sign that the exorcism is going well. All my life, and I've been a fan now for 40 years. All my life, if we have a failed former player here that goes on to make it onto another NFL roster, and we have the unfortunate problem of playing that player, they light us up every time, every single time. Guys, Joey Harrington once came into Detroit on a Thanksgiving day and had a QBR of like 112 in a blowout, Dolphins blowout of the Lions. Jeffrey Okudah, the player I thought should have never been picked at the time, because unless we're dealing with a Deion Sanders level of player, I'm never picking a corner in the top 5. But the previous regime did, and they took Jeffrey Okudah. And there was about half a season last year when it looked like he was finally going to be a thing, and then it just didn't pan out, and he was a guy that wasn't even dressing by the end of last season, so the writing was on the wall. He was let go. Well, he ends up now, he's with the Atlanta Falcons. Any other era, any other regime in this franchise since 1957 Put Jeffrey Okudah down for some key play in the game, maybe the play that wins the game, a key interception, a fumble recovery, something. It's like you forgot he was out there. I think he played 11 snaps, did not record a defensive statistic. I'm trying to think of the last time the Lions had a high-profile, failed former player that they didn't have to play again later, and he didn't do something incredible or memorable or important against them. It was like Jeffrey Okudah didn't even play. It looked like he was just a failed former player on his way out of the league, basically. To me, that's the most positive sign from Sunday's game, because I think something metaphysical is going on here. You can't be this consistently bad. You can't have the longest division title drought in American team sports. You can't win one playoff game since December 30th, 1957 in a sport entirely created, whose entire methodology is to get parity. That on average, since 1990, has averaged 4.5 new playoff teams a year. How do you consistently suck? That, to me, isn't human. There's something supernatural, cosmic with this franchise, a curse like the House of Usher. And so when I see things like that, like now failed former players aren't coming back here, freed from being with the Lions, and now they're freed up to excel, and that didn't happen here. I can't ever remember that not happening here. To me, that's the most positive sign from Sunday's game. So, short turnaround against Green Bay this week. You kind of wonder, could guys like David Montgomery and Taylor Decker have gone if you didn't have a divisional game on a short turnaround? I kind of think the answer for maybe one or two guys that's on the injury report is probably yes, but we'll find out on Thursday. Lions win this game, they're 3-1. Packers fall to 2-2. Bears and Vikings are winless going into Sunday. Hard to say 4 weeks into a season, you've got a pretty iron grip on a division, but you kind of do. You've got one loss. You're another extra game up in the loss column against Green Bay because you have a tiebreaker there, having beaten them. But I would have taken 2-2 coming out of these first 4 games. I think at Green Bay and the first 2 teams we played could very well, between the Chiefs and the Seahawks, end up being the 2 best teams on our schedule all year long. Only teams that I think have a chance to contest with that later on are Baltimore and the Chargers. So if you got out of this 2-2, especially given how beat up this roster is and really key players, there's a lot of winnable games here the rest of the schedule. Start 3-1. Well, then things get really exciting around here. So I would play defense exactly like you did against Atlanta. Very similar, young quarterback, a team that wants to rely on its running game. So I'd play virtually the same game plan. And you're playing a team that's got, though, in Green Bay, an even better defensive line than Atlanta does. So you've got to at least get Decker back, so you can move Penei over to the right side. Dude really struggled on the left side at tackle compared to the lofty standards from him that we are used to. But 2-1, and you've played 3 2-1 teams, so no gimme so far on the schedule, and you have fought through some perseverance here with all these injuries. You've kept your composure. The coach challenged the defense. It responded. Yeah, season is back on. So, but again, this is an exorcism, so there's going to be some ups and downs. Let us know what you think here in the comments on Roar Rant. Thank you for all of you that have been commenting. Please help us to find more Detroit Lions fans just like you, and we'll see you next week, hopefully at 3-1 right here on Roar Rant.